Imagine a life lived in complete solitude, high in the mountains, only for that life to vanish without a trace. What could make a seasoned hermit, deeply connected to the wilderness, simply disappear? Join us as we unravel the chilling questions surrounding this perplexing case, searching for answers in the silence of the peaks. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chilling stories. Elias Thorne wasn't like most people. He had chosen a life of solitude, a reclusive existence in the remote reaches of the mountain ranges, far away from the chaos of the world below. His cabin was tucked away in a valley, surrounded by towering pines and jagged cliffs that seemed to watch over him like ancient sentinels. He had lived there for over a decade, self-sufficient, with only a handful of people ever glimpsing him or exchanging a word. His life was simple. No phones, no electricity, no social obligations, just the wilderness and his thoughts. The reasons for Elias's hermetic life were as mysterious as his disappearance. Some believed that it was a philosophical choice, a desire to disconnect from society, to embrace the peace of nature, and to seek enlightenment in solitude. Others speculated that his retreat was born of a deep, personal trauma, something he had fled from in the past, perhaps a broken heart or a shattered life. Whatever the reason, Elias's choice to retreat into the mountains was seen as both an eccentricity and an admirable act of courage. The nearby town, a small community perched at the base of the mountain, often spoke of him in hushed tones. Some viewed him as a curiosity, an enigmatic figure whose presence seemed to defy the norms of modern society. Others whispered about the strange rumors surrounding him. Tales of mysterious rituals, cryptic messages scrawled in the margins of his journals, and strange lights in the sky on clear nights. But for the most part, he was left alone, a figure of fascination that faded into the background of town life. It wasn't until the supply drops stopped coming that alarm bells began to ring. Elias had always relied on occasional shipments of essentials, flour, rice, salt, and firewood, which were dropped by helicopter every month. He had always been diligent in paying for these deliveries in advance, and the service was reliable. But one month, the supply drop failed to arrive. The residents of the town first grew concerned, but no one thought much of it. Perhaps the weather had been too harsh or some minor logistical hiccup had delayed the delivery. But when the next month passed with no sign of Elias, the concern turned to worry. A small group of volunteers, led by the local sheriff, decided to organize a search party. The mountain was harsh and unforgiving, its winds howling through the craggy ridges, its slopes slick with snow in the winter months. But despite the terrain, the search party ventured out, braving the harsh conditions. After several days of combing the area, they finally reached Elias's cabin. What they found was unsettling. Nothing appeared to be amiss. The cabin was undisturbed, the firewood stacked neatly by the door, and the air was still. However, the strangest thing was that Elias was nowhere to be found. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no broken windows, just an eerie silence that seemed to hang in the air like an unanswered question. Inside the cabin, the searchers found an undisturbed journal, open to the last entry, written just days before his disappearance. The words were cryptic, almost like a farewell, but they didn't make any sense. The mountain has seen my secrets. The past is buried in its shadows. It's time to leave it all behind. But there were no signs of where he had gone or why he had chosen to leave. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, two main theories emerged. The first was that Elias had simply decided to leave the mountains, perhaps to begin anew somewhere else. This seemed plausible to some, as Elias had always been a man of few attachments. But there were problems with this theory. Why would someone like Elias leave without a trace? And why, after so many years of isolation, Would he suddenly choose to leave behind everything he had worked so hard to create? The second theory was far more sinister: foul play. Some speculated that someone had found Elias, that they had sought him out, either to rob him or to harm him for reasons unknown. The idea that someone had entered the hermit's world and taken him by force was unsettling. Yet it was the only explanation that seemed to hold water for many. But the absence of any physical evidence, no signs of struggle, no missing items, made this theory hard to substantiate. As the investigation grew colder, another layer was added: the mountain itself. The area where Elias lived was steeped in local legends, myths that spoke of ancient spirits, and tales of people disappearing without a trace. The most chilling was the legend of the Watcher, a creature said to reside deep within the peaks, a being that could make people vanish without a sound, leaving no evidence behind. Of course, most dismissed this as nothing more than superstition, but for some, it was a comforting explanation to an otherwise terrifying mystery. The one person who had any real interaction with Elias was a local historian named Richard Graves. Graves had often spoken with Elias during his visits to the town, exchanging ideas about philosophy and nature. According to Graves, Elias had been increasingly agitated in the weeks leading up to his disappearance, mentioning strange occurrences around his cabin. Unexplained sounds in the night, eerie shadows flitting across his windows. Elias had seemed fearful, even paranoid, but never elaborated on the cause. Despite the efforts of the sheriff's office, the case quickly went cold. No trace of Elias was ever found. No body, no belongings, not even a footprint. His digital footprint was just as absent. Elias had never been one for technology, but the complete lack of any sort of record, even through old emails or letters, made his disappearance all the more perplexing. Was it possible that Elias had completely erased himself from the world before vanishing? In recent years, with the advent of modern technology, there have been renewed efforts to investigate his disappearance. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras have flown over the mountain, scanning for signs of life or any trace of Elias's whereabouts. Even advanced forensic techniques like scent dogs and ground-penetrating radar have been employed. Yet nothing has come to light. Elias Thorne's disappearance remains a source of endless fascination and mystery, both for the locals and those who hear his story for the first time. To this day, the town still speaks of him in hushed voices, wondering if he ever really wanted to be found, or if the mountain had simply claimed him as its own. His vanishing act has become a part of the town's narrative, woven into the fabric of its history like an unsettling ghost. The allure of the unknown is a powerful thing, and the mystery of Elias Thorne continues to captivate the imagination of many, leaving people to ponder the questions that remain unanswered. What happened to the mountain hermit? Did he vanish of his own accord, or was he taken by forces beyond human comprehension? And why, after so many years of solitude, did he choose to disappear in such a cryptic and mysterious way? Perhaps the answers lie hidden in the mountain's peaks, in the places where only the brave dare to venture. But until then, the mystery of Elias Thorne remains, an enigma, shrouded in silence, waiting to be uncovered. Elias Thorne's life had always been one of deep introspection, but his isolation went beyond a mere philosophical desire for peace. Some people speculated that his retreat to the mountains had been motivated by something darker, a trauma that had left deep scars. His youth, though largely unknown, was rumored to be filled with personal loss, perhaps the death of a loved one or an irreparable heartbreak that pushed him into the wild. Though no one in the nearby town had ever asked him outright, his occasional, cryptic statements suggested that he had carried grief with him into the wilderness, a grief too large to bear among others. His cabin, modest yet comfortable, had become his sanctuary, a place where he could wrestle with the demons of his past. His only company, at least by his own account, was the land, the wind rustling through the trees, the sound of water trickling in the nearby stream, and the occasional howl of a distant wolf. He never seemed lonely. To Elias, the mountain was a living entity, a confidant that did not judge him, that simply was. He had made peace with his own solitude, perhaps because it mirrored the stillness he had come to crave, the emptiness that had been left in the wake of his pain. Yet, even in his most introspective moments, Elias had always been aware of the strange balance he walked between isolation and the town that existed just below the mountain. The townsfolk, though few in number, kept a wary eye on him. Some felt pity, others awe, but all agreed that there was something unsettling about his complete detachment from the world. There was a fear, perhaps unspoken, that Elias knew something that no one else did, the kind of knowledge one acquires only in complete solitude, far removed from the distractions of society. His long, dark hair and grizzled beard had become his trademark, an image that locals found both intriguing and foreboding. Elias didn't look like a man who was simply living off the grid. He looked like a man who had shed his identity, who had transcended the human need for social interaction and material gain. The search party, after several days of combing the dense forest around Elias's cabin, reported their findings, but the results were baffling. His journal, though well-kept and neatly organized, contained entries that described vivid, unsettling dreams. In the days leading up to his disappearance, Elias had written obsessively about the watchers in the night, cryptic references to shadows that moved in the corner of his eye. One of the final entries read, "The land speaks to me, but I do not know its language. I hear them, feel them, yet I cannot explain what they want." Was this just a symptom of isolation? Or was there something more to these dreams? Was Elias's mind unraveling? Or was there truly something sinister lurking in the shadows of the mountain? The searchers found no answers. As they made their way deeper into the forest, they discovered something even more perplexing. A set of peculiar footprints that led away from the cabin. They weren't human, but they weren't entirely animal either. The tracks seemed to fade as if the person or creature who made them had simply disappeared into the earth. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of a fight or confrontation. Only the inexplicable tracks that led nowhere. The most unsettling discovery was Elias's favorite walking stick, found wedged between two boulders a mile away from the cabin. It was an odd piece, fashioned from the wood of a rare tree, with intricate carvings etched into its surface. The stick was found on the ground, and it had clearly been discarded, as if dropped in haste. But Elias never went anywhere without it. Had someone taken it from him? As the investigation deepened, the theories surrounding Elias's disappearance became more complex. Some believed that Elias had gone mad and simply walked off into the wilderness to die. It was possible, they said, that after years of isolation, the hermit had grown mentally unstable and wandered off, either to end his life or simply to disappear in the wilds of his mind. But others weren't so sure. The fact that there were no signs of struggle, no discarded food or supplies, no indication that Elias had even attempted to survive in the wild made this theory unlikely. A man who had lived alone for so many years would surely have planned his exit carefully if he were intending to leave for good. The theory that gained more traction was the idea of foul play. There were whispers among the locals that Elias may have been killed by someone who knew of his reclusive life. Some believed that a rival hermit, someone jealous of Elias's peaceful existence, may have found him and eliminated him as a threat. Others suspected that the town's few remaining residents, frustrated with the mystery surrounding Elias, had conspired to rid themselves of the strange man. The local legends surrounding the mountain only served to fuel the theories. Some of the town's oldest residents spoke of the Watcher, a shadowy figure that was said to protect the mountain. According to the myth, the Watcher would remove those who overstayed their welcome, those who sought to live in the mountain's sacred land without understanding its rules. Was it possible that Elias's disappearance was not a human act, but rather a supernatural one? As the years passed, Elias's disappearance slowly became a forgotten chapter in the town's history, buried beneath newer mysteries and concerns. But the case was never truly closed. The absence of any physical evidence, the complete lack of any trace of his body, and the growing interest in the strange legends surrounding the mountain kept the questions alive. In recent years, with the rise of modern technology, there have been new efforts to investigate what happened to Elias. Drones equipped with advanced infrared cameras now scan the peaks of the mountain, while ground-penetrating radar systems are used to search the earth for any signs of a burial or hidden remains. But despite these advancements, no concrete evidence has emerged. There are some who believe that the use of cutting-edge forensic methods, including DNA testing on the walking stick found near the boulders, could lead to new answers. The problem, however, is that Elias had been living alone for so long, and the isolation he had embraced meant that there were very few traces of him to examine in the first place. The impact of Elias Thorne's disappearance continues to echo throughout the town, with locals still whispering about him on cold nights when the wind howls through the trees. His absence has left a gap that cannot be filled, and the questions about his fate remain unanswered. Some believe he was taken by forces beyond human comprehension, while others hold out hope that he is still out there, somewhere, living the life he always dreamed of. As the years go by, the allure of the unknown remains strong. Why did Elias disappear? Was it by his own choice, or did something or someone take him? The town's residents continue to speculate, and as the mountain stands silent, it seems that the answers to these questions remain hidden in its dark crevices. Please kindly hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chilling tales. Perhaps Elias Thorne's greatest legacy isn't his time on the mountain, but the mystery that he left behind. A puzzle that continues to captivate the minds of those who dare to ask, what truly happened to the mountain hermit? The search for answers, it seems, is far from over. And for those brave enough to venture into the mountains, the story of Elias Thorne still has one more chapter left to be written. Never forget, there are dangers to isolation, both mentally and physically, and the consequences of disconnecting from the world without fully confronting past traumas. And some mysteries may never have clear answers, with the allure of the unknown leaving a lasting impact on both individuals and communities.